Hey everyone, my name is JJ,
And I'm Andrew.
and you're watching The Residents of Evil. Join us on the set of our latest fan film, The Keeper's Diary, a biohazard story, as we once again enter the world of survival horror. Today we're going to talk about the Resident Evil Hollywood film franchise, largely owned and operated by Constantine Films, with our very special guest, the Critical Drinker.
The Critical Drinker is one of the largest entertainment critics and reviewers on YouTube. He has appeared on The Ben Shapiro Show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, Friday Night Tights, and he is author of the entire Ryan Drake book series, and he is the creator and writer of the upcoming film Rogue Elements, a Ryan Drake story, based off of his book series about Ryan Drake. Before we jump into today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join us on Patreon. We run a small operation, and creating content like this is no easy feat. So, every bit of your support matters in helping grow the row. With that, let's get started.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Moving on to another conversation. You're going to need a lot for this one.
And we're all wearing the same jacket because it's cold.
It is very cold in here because the Spencer Mansion does not have electricity anymore.
Or either
heat.
that or you don't pay for your heating bill.
Well, times are hard.
Umbrella Corporation doesn't pay like overheads for this sort of thing, so
I kind of abandoned this place. I just got a Jenny getting the lights going. But now we are talking about the Resident Evil live action films. And we're going to be going through all of them. There's a lot. I think we're going to start with the Paul Anderson films, kind of work our way back to Resident Evil 2002 with Mila Jovovich.
Can we get a couple more?
All right, we got plenty. But it should be a fun conversation. There's things that obviously the majority of fans kind of have a lot to say about these films. It's very divisive, but there's also a mass majority that really enjoys these films as well. And, you know, say what you will, there was kind of a split in the fandom where people really liked the movies, maybe didn't play the games, and vice versa. And there's some that just kind of fall into the middle ground. So with this movie, I got a lot to say about the first Resident Evil movie, but I'm going to pass it over to you, Will. Want to tell us about your thoughts with Resident Evil 2002?
Shite! All right. No, okay.
Not that quick.
So I was really excited to see it back in the day because, you know, the series was really picking up. We already had 3 or 4 games under our belt by that point. They were doing the remakes. And, hey, we're getting a movie for the first time. And this was around the era when we were getting, like, the Tomb Raider movie and stuff as well. Yeah. So, like, they were starting to prove that they could do big-budget action movies and make them work based on games. And then I saw it, and I kept waiting for just the real Resident Evil feel to kick in. And it really didn't throughout it. You know, there was little nods to it with the mansion that you spend about 2 minutes in up above. And then, you know, I wanted to see Jill. I wanted to see Chris. I wanted to see characters I recognize. Instead, we've got this chick named Alice who just is a bit of a blank slate. I mean, quite literally, because she doesn't even have her memory at first. So you've got no idea who she is. And yeah, it never quite kicked off. The special effects are really goofy. They haven't aged well with like the liquor and stuff.
Yeah.
And the choice of like doing like weird techno music when they're doing like the fight scenes with the zombies. Oh, that's rough, man.
Of the time.
Yeah.
I think.
So all of those things combined just gave us a sort of generic zombie action movie that just didn't feel like it had too much connection to Resident Evil.
Well said. Well said. I remember when I first heard they were going to be making a live action Resident Evil movie, I was probably more excited than I ever been up to, you know, the Resident Evil 2 remake. But for me, like, to see that in live action was just so cool. I remember like going online and trying to find things. I think what I first found was the George Romero trailer, and I seen the real people, and I was like, "What is this? I need to understand more." I was a kid, and the internet was very slow. And then I remember shortly after finding that, just trying to figure out what. And I found out it was a trailer. Then they released the trailer for the movie, and I probably watched that trailer more times than most videos. And I was just so excited to go see it.
The movie trailer or the Romero trailer?
The movie trailer, once they announced it, yeah. And so going to see it, I remember being very excited, but at the same time, I very much felt that too. Like, something just seems off. Like, this it's Resident Evil. I think I'm having fun, but I also, this is not really what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
You know, it was just so different. Kind of come around now to really appreciate the first film in comparison to what we've got. But I mean, I've seen it quite a few times, and I think I was just trying to, I wouldn't say lie to myself, but fake myself, you know, to really enjoying it. And I think what kind of sold that for me is when I seen the Dawn of the Dead remake, that intro, you know, in the town. I was like, oh, that's what I would have wanted for a Resident Evil movie. You know, it's just they kept kind of changing things here and there in the actual movie that it just didn't sit right with me, but I still enjoyed it. I mean, my favorite Slipknot song came from it, My Plague. It had a banger soundtrack. That it was really good, but it was definitely setting up this new world with new characters, and it was touching on the games, but it was doing its own thing. And I mean, it definitely, you know, snowballed from there. But, you know, I have a lot of nostalgia for it because of the excitement I had going to see it, finally going to the theater after watching the trailer so many times. And I grew a passion for it over time because of that nostalgia a lot. You know, a lot of it plays a part in it. But you know, then the series just kind of went in a different direction. But how about you, Andrew? What do you think of the first Resident Evil movie when you first seen it?
Disheartening, but I mean, it's a fun movie. If you take away all the Resident Evil stuff and just watch it as its own movie, it's a fun movie to watch. When Brandon's documentary comes out, I think it's going to be very interesting to hear what happened with Constantine and George Romero and why that never happened. And why they decided to go with Paul W. Sanderson. To my understanding, it's a script that he wrote for something else and then just decided to steal things from Resident Evil and interject it. And so whatever. It's a fun movie. I'm not going to have very good things to say about this.
Kind of know. I'm a little bit of devil's advocate over here, right? Because, you know, I do got a lot of nostalgia for them.
mean, you're taking essentially a work of art and desecrating it is very much how I view these movies.
Okay, so you're probably you got the strongest, like, negative
It's
kind of thoughts on these, right?
I mean, you're taking a story about how corporations completely screw people over, and you're brushing that under the rug for cool action, whatever. What is it? Who cares?
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, that's how the Resident Evil fans are. There's some that really like it. There's some that don't.
I get people love it. Like, if you love it, great. But I mean, have you played the game?
Yeah.
It always felt like his understanding of the games was limited to a bunch of screenshots that people showed him.
Yeah.
Of their, like, Jill fighting a dog. Okay, well, we should have a zombie dog in this. Like, the underground lab. Well, that sounds cool. A few zombies wandering around corridors. We'll put that in. And that's it. Like, there's no real context to what he does. And yeah, like the Red Queen and stuff. That was like this weird addition that was never in the games.
I will say that I do really like what they did with Umbrella and the Hive. I thought that was a pretty cool way it was a cool take on Umbrella, right? It was still the underground laboratory, but the whole Hive aspect of it and the AI, I thought that was interesting. I did like that personally.
Yeah.
I think it was a factor of just they needed something to interact with and something to act as a vector for plot. And so the Red Queen's the perfect thing because it explains, like, why the place got locked down, what they were working on there, what they need to do to get out. So that can just be the voice of the narrator to explain the entire story.
You're all going to die down here.
Yeah. You're going to die down
Everyone remembers the laser corridor, though.
And that's what I was going to say. That made its way into Resident Evil 4, the laser corridor. There were elements from the games that made from the movies that made their way into the games, and from the games that made their way into the movies. And the laser corridor, the font, actually, Resident Evil Outbreak had that font. And I believe they used it for the movie. I can't remember which one came out first.
I don't know.
But there was that font. But what redeeming qualities could you say for the movies if you had to say something that you enjoyed from the first film?
Just the first one so far.
Just the first one so far, yeah. We'll look for our biggest critiques and then what we like the most about it.
I mean, I guess some of the fight scenes with the zombies and stuff are good. Like the intro where the virus outbreak first happens. Like you get to see the Hive just before everything goes to pot. And, you know, get a little build up. Maybe you think one or two of the characters are actually going to have a role in this movie, and then you find out they don't, obviously. But yeah, that is all like nice and chaotic, and it captures that spirit of like suddenly there's a virus outbreak and they're all trapped in there.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And kind of to your point, like if you removed a lot of the Resident Evil elements, it's a fun zombie flick, you know, like through and through. Like She wakes up with no memory. It unravels to her and the viewer as she's going through it. You go down to, a laboratory. You find out that, it's got a lot of elements of Resident Evil, but it's just very different. So, I think it's, and like I said, in time, I think this is probably the strongest of the Resident Evil films, because if you thought this one spiraled, well, it gets a little more chaotic as we go.
I always say all the time, just because you put a lightsaber in a Star Wars show doesn't make it Star Wars. And that's exactly what these movies do. They take things from Resident Evil and put them in a movie and say it's Resident Evil. And they totally disregard the plot, the story, and,
Yeah.
Can I say something controversial then? I think
Say it.
Apocalypse, that's the second one, isn't
Yeah.
it? That is probably my favorite, and I think that's the least bad out of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think it's got quite a good feel of Resident Evil Nemesis. Like, it's got the spirit of, like, Raccoon City in the midst of the virus outbreak and everything's falling apart. That I did quite appreciate. It got references to the stars and I think some of that is okay.
Yeah, moving now into the second film, Apocalypse, where you got Jill Valentine, you got Alice's back, and it's kind of now that they moved out of the hive, the infection has taken the city. It's basically like Resident Evil 3, but in movie form. It's like kind of like they disregarded 2 and just went right to 3, whereas Welcome to Raccoon City did 1 and 2 and disregarded 3. But I would say that Apocalypse is much more campy. Like, it's got a lot more silly elements into it. It ups the action a little bit, but I recently rewatched it, and there's shots in there that are really well done, like that mimic the third game, like the outbreak in the Raccoon City, where they got the zombie shots and, the UVCS going through.
Yeah.
And that's all really cool. I think I found the turning point in the film, though, where it just kind of is when Alice shows up, and she just kind of shows up with a motorcycle through a church window. Like, I don't know what tipped her off that they needed help, but she just happened to be in the right place at the right time and just driving her motorcycle through a church window.
Yeah, and that's how she passes the time. Yeah.
Why the hell not?
The physics behind that collision are just mind-boggling as well. When it hits the liquor, and they both just hit like that and then go up vertically. Like, I don't understand what's happening, but I don't care.
Some of that aside, but that's where like it shifts from Jill, because I honestly do think that they perfectly casted Jill in this. I thought Sienna Gilroy.
Yeah, she's really good.
I think she did a great job as Jill, and they nailed the look of like Stars members, except there wasn't that many Stars members in the game.
Yeah,
arguably has my favorite Stars member, the dude with the cowboy hat that's drinking beers up on the building.
Oh yeah,
taking shots, and then Nemesis comes and blows him up.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
It was a good sequence, that as well, like the minigun and everything.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of practical effects going on there. Looked okay. Okay.
And it was just a very campy horror movie, and I can see why that would be your favorite. It's to a lot of people, and it is a toss-up between Apocalypse and the original for me. I think the original is a little more grounded in reality, where the second one just knows it's silly and it has fun with it. But yeah, so then you got the Nemesis. Now this is the Matt from the first film who's transforming, and at the end of the first film they say put him in the Nemesis.
Oh yeah. That's right.
And put him in the Nemesis program.
Yeah.
And now he kind of has a connection with Alice because they survived together in the first film. So he's like a bit more intelligent of a Nemesis.
Yeah.
And at the end of the film, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous, when they have a hand-to-hand combat. So Nemesis up until that point was cool, and they gave him the minigun now that he has in a lot of different adaptations. But he was cool up until that end where they were having hand-to-hand combat, and she was going toe-to-toe with Nemesis. Now, if you go back to Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, you would never think, oh man, I'm just going to go fight.
A fist fight is not the way to take him on. And like, there's no way to shoot something like that and not make it look goofy, because he's about 3 feet taller than her.
Yeah.
And like, she's trying to like push him around and stuff. It just looks silly.
Yeah.
I do think that the outfit they had was great. It's just when they showed it a lot like that, then you could really see that it was a bodysuit, right?
Yeah.
It's like, be more careful with your shots here, because you want to sell it. And for the most part, I think they did a good job selling it. So you got the city, you got the outbreak in the city, and I thought that was great. Then there's this plot thread where, who's it? No, not Marcus. Ashford guys, their daughter, Umbrella was kind of going through and getting all their top elites and taking them to like a bunker or whatever for safety. And then her van was intercepted, and now she's out. So he contacts all these different groups. You have Carlos and Nikolai. You got Jill and Alice, and then you got Mike Epps is in there too. He's like the comedic relief. I liked his part in it. 10 points.
Oh yeah.
My shit's
Oh, he was funny. Yeah.
I've never seen zombie strippers in my life, but until then,
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
Oh, he's great.
And they all work together to try to find this daughter, to bring her back. And so that's why like they kind of all come together. And then you got the showdown, at the hospital for the nuke hits. And that's where they had that scene, like in Code Veronica, where Alice, instead of being Claire, Alice is running with the helicopter shooting at her.
Yeah.
So
It's got to be about her,
Yeah, it's got to be about Alice. And like I said, I think that's the biggest flaw in this movie is when they shifted focus from the characters that they introduced, which I thought they did a good job introducing, and they went back, towards Alice.
Yeah.
And then that kind of wraps with them escaping Raccoon City and the nuke drops, but then their plane crashes and they abduct Alice to do tests on her. Kind of how the rest of this series goes.
I cannot believe you took the time to sit down and rewatch these.
Dude,
movies.
I just watched them last night, the night before.
God.
They're still pretty fresh in my mind.
I
hoping
feel
you
like
guys
most
jump
of
in a
us
little
would
bit
just
more.
watch
Yeah.
them and just they just deleted from memory the moment after we.
That's why I had to
When you're
rewatch it.
mentioning this stuff, though, it's like unearthing traumatic memories, and you get flashbacks to it now.
Pain.
Like, yeah,
I need more just to numb the pain.
that's when she turns into Super Alice, isn't it? And now she's got like telekinetic abilities.
At the end of 2 is when she first shows, like, she looks at the camera and the security guard is like, they all shift to her face and she looks up at the security camera. It's like she's looking at him and then all of a sudden he starts bleeding from the eyes. And then the doctor there, who's like a big character, I don't remember his name. Isaac, maybe? Yeah.
The William Birkin guy?
Yeah, and then Isaac. He's like, let her go. And now it looks like, Umbrella's actually tapped into her and can see what she sees. And now she's got telekinetic powers and it gets wild from here.
Oh,
but overall, like a recap of the film, like what are some things you like and dislike it like the most about it?
So I think some of the action scenes are pretty competent. They actually do a lot of practical effects for squibs, explosions, that sort of thing. I like the fact that the Nemesis is a practical effect unto himself. Like, you can tell he's like a guy in a big rubber suit, but it still looks okay for the most part. And I think it retains some of the tone of Resident Evil 3 fairly well. I think it brings that across. So yeah, overall, it's tolerable.
Yeah. Okay. Tolerable is a good way to put it. I should also note that when they're fighting Nemesis, because Alice and Nemesis have that connection, he turns and starts helping her. Then he shoots a helicopter down and it crashes on him. That's how he dies. But anyways, what are your good and bad things about Apocalypse?
I'd probably agree with you. I think it's probably one of the better, not adaptations, but in a sense that they do kind of bring more things properly from the games and tell the story that way. I just feel like all these other movies in the Anderson series just steal things just to, put them in a movie. But this one, it does a better job with at least trying to stay true to the game. Is it true to the game? No, not really, but at least it's right.
I don't think fans thought so, because in the next film, Resident Evil Extinction, a lot of people said either be faithful or do your own thing. And I think they said they heard do your own thing, and they really did their own thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So now in this film, it picks up with Alice, and she's kind of on the run, and the apocalypse is hit, and everything is extinct, basically. So it's like a desert wasteland, Mad Max style Resident Evil. And this one was like the first one that I seen where like, whoa, this is just so far different. Like, I don't know if I can still be into this series. I gave it the benefit of the doubt with 1 and 2, and I enjoyed them for what they were at the time. But 3, at the time, I was not a fan of. She uses her telekinesis powers a few times where she's sleeping and she's having a bad dream. Yeah.
I didn't even know she had telekinesis.
Yeah, rocks start picking up, and then her bike picks up and it drops and explodes.
It goes in some weird ways.
It goes weird, dude.
I'm still genuinely baffled how the T-virus managed to cause the oceans to dry up and turns the world into a desert. Like,
holy hell, man, that thing's got some powers we didn't even know.
It is bizarre. And it's like, I get the feeling this was meant to be the final one, because it's like the world literally ends.
So. Yeah.
Where can you go from there?
It was weird to see the apocalypse on that scale. In the games, you'd see a city, you'd see a town, and it was the whole world. So it's like they're in uncharted territory that the games have never done. And now they're just kind of doing their own thing. And where you would think I would enjoy it more, because it's like either you be faithful or you don't. This one, I think I enjoyed the least at the time because it was so far different. And I think, this is where she bumps into characters. You see characters return, like Mike Epps is back, Carlos is back, and she reunites with them, and they got a whole group of other survivors like Claire Redfield. And I mean, say what you will about the film, I think they perfectly casted Claire Redfield in Extinction. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know that.
Ali Larter.
Oh, you got that down. Damn, you're good.
Yeah, I've done some research there.
Really loved her.
Yeah, I mean, she's a good casting choice. She's got a great look to her. Yeah, and she's a decent actress as well.
She also
So
took a
definitely
side seat to Alice, though.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Know your
Yeah.
place.
I know, and that's the thing. Like, if they would just leave, if it wasn't for that character, it's so ironic that the protagonist of this entire series is probably the worst aspect of it.
Yeah.
They would have so much more freedom narratively if they just ditched her and
Yeah.
focused on the actual characters from the games.
They had good characters from the games. Like I felt like they casted them right. They
Not so much Chris Redfield later, but
I like Chris. I thought he was a really good Chris. But
I mean,
we'll get to it.
I love the actor.
Yeah, the
generally, I love
actor.
him in Prison Break and stuff. Just
Yeah.
not necessarily as the boulder punching king.
No, yeah,
Um,
I can see that. So I really don't remember, and I just watched this like 2 nights ago. I don't remember. I think the goal is to stop Umbrella. So they work together. She bends some fire because there's all these zombie crows coming at him. And this is like, it sounds like drunk
It's like
grappling.
X-Men now?
This is how I recap movies.
It's like X-Men.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
my
there's
bad.
zombie crows and she bent fire and burned them.
A
Yeah.
bunch of zombie crows that are attacking
From
them.
X-Men.
Yeah.
They like kill Mike Epps' girlfriend, but he's also turning into a zombie. And then, the zombie crows are coming, and then they shoot the flamethrower in the air, and then Alice comes to save the day. I think that's how she reunites with them, and she like bends
This
the
is more
fire.
entertaining than watching everything.
She bends the fire up in the sky and burns all the crows and turns them into ashes.
Oh man, I
Doesn't Dr. Isaacs turn up as well and get bitten by a zombie?
So Isaac does turn up. I think he's in and out, but I don't think he gets bit by I think he does get bit by a zombie, and
Because
then
he's infected. And
Yeah.
that's when he overdoses on like the anti-serum or something. It turns him into
whatever the hell that
whatever.
thing is.
the Birkin knockoff.
They had like the super zombie thing with like the
Yeah. So he was making,
Right.
it kind of reminds me of that one George Romero movie where the zombies are starting to get intelligent, but they were literally testing zombies and making them smarter. And then he somehow at some point got bit by one of them. And then he was turning, so he took the antivirus, but he took too much because he had to counter the virus was getting stronger. So he had to counter it, but then that turned him into like this tyrant looking enemy with like
That's what
tentacles.
I was
It was
It
like
was,
the Bandersnatch
yeah. It was
from
like- yeah.
from Zero or something, wasn't it? Like with the long arms.
It was like Nemesis's tendrils,
Yeah.
but with like Tyrant's look. It looked bad. Like it looked good, but when you would see him move, it looked bad.
Yeah.
And he would just do this thing and he would kill people. And then so what they end up doing is she finds out that they're making clones of her. And so she infiltrates that facility. And then the Red Queen's like, I'll let you down there or something to fight him. So she goes down there, but it's like basically a remake of the first movie's mansion. So they have a throwdown in there, and he's throwing tendrils, and the floor's breaking. And then she kills him. I'm trying to think what
Wasn't
else
he
happens.
back in the movie that we were just watching?
Yeah, he comes
yesterday?
back to the.
Oh.
So the Resident Evil movies has one of the biggest sins in all of the games in the franchise.
It's
They
like,
do a lot of clones.
Star Wars, when people get stabbed, it doesn't even.
Yeah.
Who cares?
As
Go
Luke
bring
said,
it
like
back.
no one's truly gone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's-
You're gonna ruin everything when you do that.
Yeah.
So then after she kills him or whatever, she finds out that they're making a whole bunch of clones of her.
Yeah.
And she's like, dude, I'm going to use this for my army. And there's like a ridiculous amount, like thousands of her down there. And it's
so
like,
funny.
oh, god damn, dude, we went way off the rails.
But this is where the movies start going into this trap of like whatever we set up at the end of one movie, we just completely undo in the first 10 minutes of
Yes.
the next movie.
Dude, because like her powers kind of like are up and down throughout the films, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't
And
that a thing in the first and the second? Because the first one ended with Raccoon City already gone, and she was like standing in the middle of the city. And then the second movie, it was like, now we're back in Raccoon City.
no.
It jumps back in time a little bit, I think.
So at the end of one, she's standing in the city. While she's doing that in Apocalypse, that's when the city's going to shit. That's when like the outbreak's happening. So she goes and does her thing, and they go do their thing, and then they meet up at that church where she breaks through the glass because she went and stole like
Gotcha.
guns and outfits and stuff. I do like the ending of Resident Evil 1, actually being in the city, seeing the chaos and seeing the paper saying the dead walk. I thought that was really cool.
Mm.
But then the end of 3 is just her with all of her clones, and she's like, I got an army and I'm coming for you. And they don't actually scrap that. She does come with an army in the 4th film,
It's
which
hilarious.
is wild, dude.
I
That's
don't even remember.
I think like for 1, 2, and 3 being my least favorite of the original 3, that's where they just said fuck it, and they're just gonna do whatever they're doing. And that's where like people that were kind of on the fence were like, all right, I'm out. And people that are like,
Oh
this
my
is fucking
gosh.
awesome. Like Fast and the Furious 10 fans are like, this is what I want.
This is where's Vin Diesel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You going to space or something?
Mm.
They actually never went to space. No, they didn't.
Not
They had
yet.
to think about that.
Yet.
Not yet. So recap, I don't know, what are you guys' thoughts on the third movie? Like as far as like if you had to rate it out of like the first three,
Negative 13 and a half.
what do you put like 1, 2, 3? How do you rate those?
What do
Like
you mean?
from best to worst?
Oh, from one would be the best. I guess 2 would be in the middle, and 3 would be the worst.
Yeah, how about you?
Probably 2. I would first. I think that's the best. The first one's probably a close second. I don't think there's too much between them. And then
Okay.
the third one is like way down in
Yeah.
the top.
None of you said the third one. That's wild. All right, now moving on to the fourth film. This one is Resident Evil Afterlife.
We actually happened to research this. It's like there's so many.
There's so many, and they all blend together, dude.
Oh, this is the one where Wesker shows up.
Yeah, and Wesker. Okay, so this is one where Wesker shows up, but it's a really bad version of Wesker, and he's got like Eminem blonde hair.
Yeah.
This
It's
is
like
the video.
orange.
You need to be wearing your sunglasses.
Oh, sorry. So okay, so the third movie has Wesker show up, and he's got the really bad Eminem blonde orange
Yeah,
hair.
'cause they recast, didn't they?
They recast after that, and I think they did better with that recast,
Yeah.
definitely. But like he was kind of like the head of Umbrella. Like in the third film, it was hinted at that he's got like a pretty powerful spot, right? And then you eventually find that he's like one of the heads of Umbrella. But the fourth film starts with Alice and her clone army infiltrating Umbrella facility, and this is where I do think they made Umbrella soldiers look really cool. Like that's because when you go see cosplay, you don't really see people cosplaying as much as the Umbrella soldiers in the games. You generally see them from the movies. Like I will say, the movies seem to popularize the look of Umbrella. They made it cool.
Yeah.
But that's where like they started having like a lot of people started like cosplaying as the characters. But this is where you got her infiltrating, and you find out, oh damn, there's a lot of Alices, and they're doing flips and shit in the air, like Matrix style. They're blowing up stuff, and a lot of things are happening. And then the Alice is there, and then Wesker escapes, and then and then he does the self-destruct sequence. And it basically makes like this wormhole in the ground and just evaporates it.
Yeah.
And all the Alices in there die.
Yeah.
Like,
remember
it's
any
wild,
of
dude.
this?
Oh,
Remember, because they all stand there totally goofy on the landing platform as his helicopter's taking off, and they're just like shooting pistols
Yeah.
wildly into the air, and then they just stand there and go, "Oh, I got nothing."
they're like, oh, fuck, let's escape. And they got like a foot, and then they all just evaporated. Then Wesker flies. And I think that's where,
Flies?
yeah, he's in a plane.
Oh,
If you told me like he actually just flies like Superman, I wouldn't be surprised in this movie.
Go did it. Dude. And so then you got all of a sudden Alice is in the plane with him.
Yeah.
She was playing a long game, right? She was Wade. She knew he was going to be taken off. And then she goes to like kill him, and then he injects her and takes her powers. So she no longer has telekinesis.
that's why they were talking about that in the movie the other
Don't
day.
worry, she gets him back, and then she doesn't, and then she does, and then she doesn't. And then, all right. Oh, and then she goes to,
Alaska or something.
Yeah,
she goes to, isn't it?
yeah, because at the end of Extinction, they all went to
I was
Alaska,
trying to
Arcadia.
feed off of
Yeah.
Veronica with that, I'm assuming.
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
that's what it was. So she gets a plane and flies to Alaska to find that there's all these abandoned helicopters and planes, and that her friends landed there, but they're nowhere to be seen. And that's where she gets attacked by Claire. And Claire's got the spider on her chest that Wesker did to Jill in the games. And
It was on Claire?
It was on Claire. Well, it was on everybody.
I thought it was on Jill.
It will be. And
Oh, it's a different one.
It was, yeah, it was
okay.
on Claire.
Okay.
And then she like removes it, and Jill's like really aggressive, so she knocks her out. Or I'm sorry, Claire's really aggressive, so she knocks her out. Then they're flying, and she wakes up and she's like, "Okay, I'm better now." She doesn't like remember anything, but she's like, "I won't attack you" or whatever. Then they find these people on this prison in LA that are like, "Help us!" And so they land the plane on the building, and it's a bunch of like no-name new characters, right? Well, then like when she gets to know them and she's like in their facility, she's getting to meet them. Then she finds that Chris Redfield is actually a captive there, which was really stupid because like he was like working with the military to clear the infection. But then when the military abandoned him, prisoners beat him up and locked him up. And now these people think he's bad, so they're keeping him locked up.
This was straight up like, how can we just bring Chris Redfield
That
into
was
this?
so shoehorned in.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, they're all talking to him because they're debating whether they should let him out because the zombies are coming through the walls they're digging, right? And then he's like, "Oh, Claire, my sister." And then he goes to, like, touch her, and then she's like, "I don't know you." And that's my purse. And then
What?
From King of the Hill. I don't know you. That's my purse.
I don't remember
Kick to the
that.
nuts. Basically, that's what happened. And then there's an executioner. He's banging on the door. You guys don't remember
Was
that?
this the one?
That's
Wait,
in the
was this the
shower,
one with the
isn't it?
shower scene?
Yeah. Oh, that's coming. Yeah.
Okay.
And then they're all like trying to fortify. And,
Shower scene.
Yeah, and then one of the producer guys there, he's like a dickhead, and he goes rogue, and he shoots one of the guys, and then he takes the plane, and he flies to Arcadia, because they found out that Arcadia wasn't a place, it was a boat. And the boat was like, just happened to be right there. Basically, like an executioner is getting in, and they're all trying to find a way to escape. Chris says he knows a way out, so they let him out of the jail cell, and the zombies are digging in, and then the producer guy takes the airplane and flies to Arcadia. They're like, fuck that guy. And then they find an escape route. But there's a shower scene in there, and I think that's the one everybody remembers. We
I
just got
remember
done
that
watching
one.
it, so you guys do
Yeah.
remember
Ali
it.
Larter in a shower scene is okay by
I
me.
like that
Stick
scene.
with the man.
If the movies were more of that, I think it'd be a little better.
Yeah, well, our young Corey over there heard shower scene, so he looked it up, and we got to see the executioner like breaks in, and then Claire and Alice fight it, gets his dome split. Then at some point they escape. And I'm only like recapping like how my brain interprets these movies, and if it sounds disjointed, it's because that's how the movies are. I
mean-
swear it's not me.
Yeah, I think you're making way more sense of them than I ever could.
Trying.
I love how there's no context for where this executioner came from or
Yeah,
what's
it's just
doing.
there.
He just shows up and he's
Yeah.
like, oh, I heard there's a party here.
I'm gonna cancel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they like escape, and then they get to Arcadia, and it's this empty ship, and they're like, "There's supposed to be 2,000 people here. Where are all these people?" It's just like an old tanker, right? Then they go downstairs and they realize, "Oh shit, man, this ship's Umbrella." And they open the door, and it's like all pristine and white, and they find out all the survivors are in capsules, and that's where like Claire remembers, "Oh shit, when we landed at Arcadia in Alaska, the Umbrella took us, and they put that thing on me, and I escaped, and that's why Alice ran into her when she landed there." But then once they like release their friends, they realize like there's a blood trail, and then Alice follows it, and it's like this hangar with all these planes, and she keeps going, and then she finds out that the one behind all of it is Albert Wesker.
Oh,
He's Wesker. And it's all white, and he's sitting in his chair, very Matrix style with his outfit from 5. And so she fights him, and he's got these dogs that like split.
Of course.
Yeah, that's his hounds. He's like, "Don't hurt my animals." But then like they start fighting, and then basically
He can heal up instantly as well, and he
Yeah.
can move at super speed.
yeah, he's doing the fast thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's dodging bullets and everything. And then she gets like distracted with the dogs, and then Claire and Chris come in, and they're fighting him. And it's very much a lot of the scenes like where he throws his sunglasses, Chris catches them, and they're all fighting, and then he kicks them into the tubes, and they go down, they're stuck, and then something happens. Oh, Alice like one-ups him. Yeah, there's the fight. Okay, so this will kind of explain it a little better, because she
Yeah,
won.
I will say the way they do the makeup on the zombie dogs is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I like the way Wesker looks in this in
The way the
comparison.
look, yes.
Yeah, in comparison to the third film, like they got
Yeah.
a new actor and he looks a lot better. And you could say it's cheesy Matrix, but that's exactly how it was in 5.
That's how it was in 5.
Yeah.
I think
And-
it's the bit where he seems to actually teleport around the room that's just
Yeah.
It was
a little
always
bit ridiculous.
out there. I do like Chris as actor too in this. I know you said you're not a big fan of Chris, but I thought like between Claire and Chris, like that was really good casting.
I love Wentworth Miller as an actor. Like he was great in Prison Break and stuff. I just feel like when he's trying to do action sequences like this, it's not quite his speed.
I
but-
see, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not that Resident Evil 5 Chris.
No,
I'd say more like a Code Veronica Chris. But yeah, see how he flips them into the tubes and now they're locked.
Oh,
it's like a game show.
Landed perfectly in
That was
there.
a really
You
good
get a
shot.
tube, and you get
Yeah.
a tube.
Yeah. And then Alice is still fighting these dogs. Remember, she doesn't have her powers, but she still has like she's really fast, and she's like a
Yeah. Is that the triple barrel?
no, that's the double barrel with the
Double
quarters.
barrel. Okay.
They bring the tombstone, I think, in the final film, or not the tombstone. It's a
The
Hydra.
Hydra.
Hydra,
You
yeah.
guys were knocking me yesterday about that.
Yeah. So then, she kicks the glass and cuts the dog like almost in half. And you might have to cut around this a little bit because I got to watch now to see how.
They did not give a shit with this fight.
Yeah, put that up to 2 times speed or something.
Yeah. Look at that.
Oh, there's the producer shows up, stabs her in the arm, and Wesker's like, "I got
Come
you."
from.
Then he's got the.
Why has he got that?
Yeah, it's because it's cool, man. It's the movie. They don't go.
going
They
on
don't
right
gotta
now?
explain it.
Don't understand.
Too much context, too much words.
Oh my god.
And then Kmart comes and smacks the producer. She throws the double barrel.
Did you say Kmart?
That's her name, Kmart.
Oh my
because that's where they
God.
found her. And then And then Alice gets the shotgun.
In the back of the store.
Yeah, probably. Going out of business. And then so she shoots Wesker. Wesker goes down. She gets Chris and
How does the
Claire.
computer even know that they're in that capsule?
You're too much context, bro. Got a big hole in his head, and then they unload on him. Like right there, yeah, they're just unloading. But that don't matter. He's gonna get up and be perfectly fine in 5 minutes.
It's safe. Right.
Yeah. So then they're escaping, and they realize, oh shit, somehow Albert Wesker got out, and he's in that plane again, and he's taking off, and they're like, oh, he's getting away. And then Alice is like, don't worry. And then he does the self-destruct sequence where it destroys everything. But it turns out Alice one-upped him, and before she went and met him, she just happened to know out of all the planes that were in the carrier that he was going to pick that one, and she just happened to get the self-destruct bomb and put it on that plane. So when it destructs, it blows up Wesker.
Wow, that was lucky. But then,
holy shit!
But then he's not dead because you see the parachute coming down.
I don't even think
end.
there was a parachute. Was there?
There was.
There's a parachute?
Yeah.
I didn't think they even explained that.
You don't even remember this shit.
Remember what I said?
Impressive.
Well, remember what I said before about traumatic memories getting
Yeah.
unlocked?
Oh,
We just had a big one there.
Dude, I didn't even think they explained that. I thought they just said, fuck it. He's still alive. So yeah, like he's not dead. He parachutes out and they're like, all right, now that we've taken out the threat, we can all have a happy life. And so they start broadcasting from Arcadia. They're like, we're looking for survivors. We got food. They unleash all the people. The people are on the front of the boat. And then all the Umbrella helicopters start coming, and that's the end.
It's led by none other than Jill Valentine.
Oh, yeah.
She's got the crystal on her chest.
That's where she's got the thing. No, the White House is at the end of 4. Oh, five.
That's the one we're about to do?
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh.
So that brings us to...
Can we speed it up?
Yeah, let's put a trailer on, actually. Like a trailer for Resident Evil 5's...
This is the VR one, isn't it?
JJ,
it might be the 3D that they were...
You're killing me, guy.
All right. So then next up we have Resident Evil Retribution, which picks up right where the last one ended.
Strap in, boys. This is going to be a rough one.
I think this is where not only did they say fuck it and they just did their own thing, but they're like, fuck a plot, dude. Let's just have, let's set up an idea as to why they have to go through every enemy we've introduced thus far and a giant liquor. Like that's literally what happens in this film. So yeah, so the Umbrella attacks the ship. You said Jill. Jill is there.
Jill leads them, and I think the intro is like the whole thing is one continuous shot, and it's done in reverse of the ship blowing up and like everyone getting captured, and then boom, cuts, and Alice wakes up seemingly at home. And it's all over.
That's it. Except they play it in reverse, and then they play it forward, so you watch it twice.
Yeah.
You gotta watch it twice.
You gotta watch it twice.
So yeah, she wakes up and it's like, whoa, she's like in her house. Her husband seems to be Carlos, his actor there, that guy. And they got a little girl who's deaf. And it's like very much like a Dawn of the Dead intro, the remake. Yeah, where she's like in this suburban life, which I will say that was really cool. And after watching the first Resident Evil movie and then seeing Dawn of the Dead remake and wanting that to be Resident Evil, there's a part of me that really likes that setup of her just in her everyday life and then shit hits the fan. Like it feels a lot more grounded and it seems like she's more of a believable character.
I think after all the absurd and over the top stuff we've seen, like the literal end of the world, like super tankers exploding and like the crazy fight that you saw with Wesker at the end of this one, to then suddenly be just in a suburban house and everything's normal again. It's like a shock to the system almost.
It was. That's how I felt going through this movie. It was all shocking. All these movies. But yeah, it was like more grounded in reality. But it turns out like this was all just like a projection, a hologram. She's in an Umbrella facility where they basically replicate these real life outbreaks. And that was just a clone of her with her clone daughter and her clone husband that they basically give these clones the basic nature to survive. But it's just all simulations.
Isn't that when she comes out of like a hatch into the desert and finds Carlos?
No.
Something like that.
I think I missed the part where Carlos sacrificed himself. I think that was in...
Was that the last movie?
Yeah.
That was 3. Yeah, Carlos did sacrifice. He's dead.
So much crazy shit happens. It's like
Yeah.
it's easy to miss stuff like that.
He died. But you might be right. I'm trying to think of where that would be. But anyways...
Good actor, by the way.
Yeah, he is good.
Yeah.
He's a good Carlos.
Yeah.
But she wakes up in like this Umbrella thing and it's Jill saying like, why did you turn on us? Because originally Alice worked for Umbrella. She was like head of security of that mansion. And somebody shuts down the system and she escapes and she goes through one of these simulations. They got like the outfit there first. She got like the freaking They even say BDSM or something in the movie because it looks so ridiculous. It's like all a bunch of buckles and straps. And she's like all of a sudden she's in Tokyo and she's like, what the hell is going on? It's all a simulation of the outbreak in Tokyo. So she fights all of them. And then she goes out to this room where she sees Ada Wong. Now, Ada Wong actually is voiced
By Sally Cahill.
Because the actress, I think, couldn't speak English.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it might be a little jarring to watch, but I thought it was cool to hear actually a familiar Ada voice in the movie, you know? But like basically Wesker now wants to work with Alice and Ada. So Wesker was trying to be the human savior and Red Queen was going AWOL. So they had to work together to stop the Red Queen because she basically took over all the Umbrella Laboratories. And then Wesker says, I got an elite task force that I got to come get you guys. And it's none other than Leon Kennedy, Barry Burton, and some other guy. Luther.
Oh, it's where they bring in all the other characters. Like 8 movies later, they're bringing all the characters back.
Yeah, they bring back a lot of the characters because they're brought them back as like clones.
Man, these guys are just unloading automatic pistols into these guys' heads.
Yeah. So what they have to do now, so for some reason, Leon Kennedy's working with Albert Wesker because he was hired by Albert Wesker, which, holy shit. And so is Barry Burton.
Okay.
And they have to fight their way through all these different test facilities to get out. There is like enemies from Resident Evil 6. They're like soldiers that are zombies but smart. There's giant liquor, which is fucking wild. I don't even remember that. Mm-hmm. And it's just chaos. Like the plot's kind of thrown out, and it's just all about the action.
Yeah,
like, this movie is the most action focused.
It's the novelty of just being able to dump them into whatever scenario you can imagine and just turn them loose and just have fun with it, I suppose. And as you say, this is where the series just completely ran out of narrative steam. They had no idea where to go. They didn't care anymore. It's just, well, people are still paying to see these for some reason, so I guess we better make another one.
Yeah.
I mean, just to keep it going with no real story to go off of, it was smart of them, I guess, to just say, hey, you know what, we're just going to give these people... Like, they understood now at this point. Like, we've so far abandoned the Resident Evil games, you know? Like, and people just come for the nonstop action. Like, we're just going to give them action. It's a fun movie. I don't think any of these are great Resident Evil movies, but they're like their own thing. It's fun and it's got over the top and it's just like the most like turn off your brain, don't think, and just enjoy the shooting.
Okay. Is this the last one?
Nope. We got one more, dude. We're getting there. We're getting there. Barry gets lit up. He's dead. And then
actor too. I mean, these guys are good actors.
They do find
Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant, yes, Barry. They do find pretty good characters to play the character. They're just not the characters from the games. Like they're just random. But then basically, long story short, they battle their way out, and then Jill and Michelle Rodriguez from the first movie, she's like the mean clone version. She takes the Lost Plagas, and then now Alice, Leon, Ada. Wait, Ada's not there. They got her captured. Whoever else she's with has to fight Jill and Michelle Rodriguez, and they're battling on the ice. Right there, it is, right there. And yeah, Leon.
That dude looks like Leon.
He does, yeah.
Lewis or whatever. What did you say his name was? Luther. Okay. And like it's a cool fight scene, and they got like Mortal Kombat breaking bones where it like zooms in and you can see the bones crack.
Mortal Kombat. He made Mortal Kombat too, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Oh god.
And Luther and Leon
just keep this guy away from video game movies.
Honestly, it was actually good, considering at the time when that Mortal Kombat movie was made. Yes. It's actually good because there was only like 2 games made at that point with very little story. And it followed the games. There was a tournament, Shang Tsung, it all worked.
There's a really cool scene where they like Ada shoots the ice and Michelle Rodriguez falls through, and then you can see like all the zombies from the facility coming up to pull her under.
Yeah.
Like it is a cool shot. But like eventually Alice gets that spider thing off of Jill, and they all get in the plane happily ever after. I think Leon makes a pass on Ada. He puts his hand on her leg and she's like, get out of here. And he's like, oh shit, women. And then, yeah, like, and then I think like the plane explodes or something. Something happens here. Maybe it'll show us.
We just go to the last.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Oh, God. What
the fuck happened?
I've got to say, respect to the actresses for even being able to move, never mind fight in those outfits.
Yeah,
they look fantastic, but they must be horrendous to try and move around.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. I don't think they're very tactical. They're just for looks.
Tactical tube top.
Yeah, tactical troop cop.
Tactical bondage gear.
Yeah. So like, yeah, so Alice and all of them escape, and they got that deaf girl that was her kid, but not really her kid, but her clone's kid. And then something happens at the end of the movie, and she separates from them. I'm trying to remember what happened. I think like the plane crashed or something. Who knows? They're all the same at this point, right? They all blend together.
There's always a plane crash.
Yeah, something happened. And then the sixth and final movie, the final chapter, opens up with Alice once again in the apocalypse extinction world, right? And there's the giant bat from Resident Evil 5 that's chasing her in a Hummer.
I was going to say as well, this is yet another example where they undo the ending of the previous game because it ends. This movie ends with her in the White House, right? And there's like a big battle scene going on. Wesker's there. He rescues her. And he's like, "You're the last hope for humanity.
Yeah.
There's only like a few thousand of us left or something."
That's
and
what
it's
it
like
was.
this big tracking shot of an epic battle scene around the White House with demons and everything.
You don't see that in the next movie.
In the next one, it's so funny because it opens and the battle's just over and everyone's dead except Alice. And she just like climbs out the rubble and walks off.
So that's what it was. They didn't crash the helicopter. They landed. Wesker actually gives her powers back. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, she's like, what the hell?
Probably.
Yeah, he gives her powers back. And then, yeah, it cuts to that. And then now the sixth movie's like, fuck that. And then she's just driving in like this desert wasteland. And there's a giant bat. And she kills it with her Hummer. It's a bat from Resident Evil 5. And then she like meets, it's like the fourth movie again, kind of, but like with elements of Extinction. And now, like, okay, so now Tony and everybody was saying that the jump cuts are horrible. And I remember they're bad.
Oh my god, the
but
cuts.
they were horrible.
I think I saw like 5 cuts within a second at one
Keep up
point.
with it.
It's like he learns a new editing technique with each movie and just decides to roll with it and go all in on each one.
Well, it was hard to keep focus and get any connection to any characters because it was just jump,
Like,
jump.
how
jump.
do you even
They're
comprehend
moving
what's
so
going
fast.
on? It's like you can't put yourself in a scene if you're cutting away every 2 seconds.
Yeah. So she like gets captured by another Isaac clone who's like a crazy, like he's got a cult and like basically he thinks that they're cleansing the earth, and then they like have Alice on chains out behind the vehicle and there's zombies, and then I don't know, she gets away she gets away and she takes the bike. She like cuts his hand off. That's what it is. Yeah. She cuts his hand off and then she drives to Raccoon City, and there's like this abandoned building and where she meets all these new survivors, like 4, except you don't really know any of their names or what they do except for Claire because they're just jump cutting so fast. And then she says like, I think I have a cure to stop this. But it'll require me, it'll kill everything that has a T virus, so I'm gonna die. And Claire's like, no, you can't die. And it's like, dude, fucking really? Like, if she could save the world, do you really care about Alice? Like, just let her die.
I think they've got a timer as well on this one because it's like the last human settlements are about to be overrun by zombies. And they somehow have predicted it down to the minute when humanity's going to go extinct. So they've literally got a stopwatch. Like, oh no, we've got 7 hours and 32 minutes left.
Or they have to like go down back into the hive from the first movie. And now they're working with the Red Queen because the Red Queen's like, no, we can't allow this to happen. We can't allow Umbrella to wipe out humanity. And so now this is where like Wesker's at the very bottom, and he's like, but then this is where they got that twist that they're clones, right? And this is where you find out that Marcus had a daughter who was like aging fast and had like, she was sick, so he developed the T virus. Then Isaac killed him and took the T virus. And then now, like, that little girl grew up, and now she's the head of Umbrella, and it's literally Alice. And the Alice from the movies that we've been watching is just a clone, and the Red Queen is actually the little girl Alice. So, like, this is where
Dun dun
I'm gonna
dun.
put this in your guys' hands now. You guys take it from
So
me.
you
I
got-
don't even know what to say.
You've got Mila Jovovich in old lady makeup.
Yeah.
She's in like a wheelchair now because
Yeah.
like she's degenerating.
Like Evelyn.
And yeah, Isaac shows up again.
Yeah, but the real Isaac, the cult Isaac, and then the real Isaac showed he was awakened.
Yeah, and then the cult Isaac kills the real Isaac, and then
At the very end, yep.
yeah,
You're on it.
I'm sort of
You're kidding it
picking
back.
up the thread. Yeah, but man, it's
But this-
coming back in little pieces.
They shut the door, like Wesker's standing in the door, and he's got like the old Alice at gunpoint, and the door closes and like pins his leg, and he's like, oh, I'm dying. And so like this big bad Wesker now, he just got killed by a door. Like he's literally stuck there with his like leg
He
pinned
got
in.
killed by a door?
Yeah, dude, the door got his leg.
This is the guy who can teleport around and stuff.
Oh.
Now a door stops him.
Fucking door got him.
What are
dude.
the odds a door?
Yeah, it's like you just slice it off.
What are the
Well, they had to
odds
get rid
a
of him
door?
for the movie.
A door. It's the most iconic thing in Resident Evil.
But now,
Stops him.
like Isaac has the same powers as Albert Wesker, so now Isaac's the big bad again. And they go through this like fight sequence through the areas from the first Resident Evil movie with the laser room and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like breaking through the glass and
doesn't he like chop her hand off or something in like the laser grid?
Yeah, he chops her fingers off.
Oh, that was it, yeah.
And then she like overpowers him somehow and gets out, and then he's chasing her, and then that's where the cult Isaac kills the new Isaac, because the cult Isaac's like bringing all the zombies to them, and when he meets them, the zombies get him, and then Alice has the antivirus and she breaks it, and then like all the zombies, like the thousands of zombies that are chasing him, just all start dropping dead. I feel like I'm missing some big elements.
Corey, can you Google how many cuts are in this film?
Oh, I actually tried that last night.
Couldn't find it?
There's not a number big enough.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude.
Oh,
what elements
boy.
did I miss?
You missed like during the fight.
Does it matter?
The reason why she got her fingers cut off was because she allowed her fingers to get cut off so she could take that grenade, put it in his coat pocket, and it blew up, and that's when she was able to grab the virus from the other side of him.
Okay.
Which, a grenade exploding that close somehow didn't take out the antidote for the T-virus.
So basically, like, my interpretation is she just somehow got away fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, and she went up to the thing, and like the Red Queen was saying, it's like, like time's almost out, you gotta go.
Yeah. And so now when she breaks the T-virus, she's supposed to die, but she's somehow still alive. And Claire's like, how did you live? And she's
How
like,
are we not at
I
the
guess
end
I
of the
developed
movie?
antibodies or something. But like the original Alice is like, you're the Alice I always wanted to be. Like, you live on for me. And so like it comes full circle. I mean, all their clone bullshit, I do kind of like that they actually closed it off and they did like she was always the leader and that was just a version of her. For some reason, when I remember when I was watching this, I was like, I kind of like how they tied that up. And then at that point, like it did lead into where it could be another sequel, but there just never was. And it was like, okay, it's done there. That should be fine. And now at the end, she just drives away to like repopulate the world or something.
Was that Manhattan?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I kind of agree in the sense that like it provides some sort of closure and it finishes up her character arc. It gives an explanation for where she came from, and it does feel conclusive. Like, okay, we can stop now. And it's buried under all this other bullshit with like, and particularly by this point in the series, you have lost any kind of investment in what's going on because so much nonsense has occurred, and it's just every movie overwrites what came before it and just retcons everything anyway. So who's to say what? If they did another one after this, they would just undo everything that happened in this one, probably.
They kind of did with that Netflix series. They just like they like did it again, where they were just kind of off the walls with it and just did their own thing. And yeah, I mean, there is a part of me that has nostalgia for these films because there was a point in time, I think it was after Extinction, where I was able to separate the games from the movies, and I just as like a habit or like as a tradition, I'd go to the movies, I'd get popcorn, I'd go watch them, I'd be like, okay, that is what it was. But I was used to the annual. It was nice to have that annual release and just going to do the same thing. You knew what you were getting yourself into. It was always a wild ride. You never really had to think too hard on it. And so like there's a part of these movies that I really do appreciate. And I will say, in comparison to Welcome to Raccoon City, I would rather them, if they're not going to be faithful, to just do your own thing. Like instead of like saying you're faithful and then butchering what you have, just do your thing. I'd rather have do that than butcher the lore that's established.
Yeah. Corey, can you do me a favor? Can you pull up the slide on that PowerPoint that shows like the box office numbers and budget? Okay. So, I mean, if you look, this is my thing. As much as we all, for the most part, don't like these movies. I don't think Paul Anderson directed 2 and 3 because he was making like Alien vs. Predator and stuff like that at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But he did most of them. But if you look, like Resident Evil 2002 budget, 33 million, box office, 103 million. Resident Evil Apocalypse, 45 million budget, box office, 130 million.
Goes up.
And this is something I want to bring up too, is like you look at this and it's like no wonder these movies kept getting made. Because it's like they're not spending a lot of money in terms of filmmaking, but they're making massive returns.
Sure.
And it's like, who cares if this guy doesn't give a shit about the games or not? He's making us money.
I mean, looking at the final chapter there, right? 40 million budget. So they actually cut the budget from the previous one. But
They
it made
did.
312 million.
312 million.
That is a
wonder why they
really
continue.
good ratio.
Exactly.
It is.
And another thing I want to bring up too is movies now are making the whole production process is 300 million, and now they're making 40 million.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the total opposite.
And so that's what it was. But, real quick, I want to touch on, you said
Yeah.
we all generally don't like these movies. I just spent the last hour explaining why I love these movies
Yeah.
and why Alice is the best character in the entire series. And you're going to say I don't love them?
I don't believe you.
I can only lie so much.
But yeah, it's no wonder that they kept getting made. So my question is, given that we've gotten all these movies and shows and the reboot, and we've seen what people who probably aren't familiar with the game can do you think now that we're in this age where we're all grown up and maybe filmmakers that are familiar with the source material, do you think it's possible to both make a faithful, entertaining movie, much like Peter Jackson was a huge fan of Tolkien's work, and he was blessed enough to have gotten control of that franchise to make 3 movies? Do you think that can ever happen with Resident Evil?
I think for sure it could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always possible.
Yeah.
It's really just a question of, can we find the right person to take it on?
Sure.
And maybe after so many attempts at it,
Yeah.
the franchise is perhaps a little burned right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I think maybe what they need is a break of a few years
Yeah.
without trying to do any more film or TV projects, just to let it
Well, then they'll
simmer
lose
down.
their rights.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, they don't want to. That's why we keep seeing
And that's
these.
probably why Welcome to Raccoon City was made. It's for retain rights.
Yeah. Well, I think, if you were able to do that, take the time to plan it out. And the stories are there. Like, they're ready made.
Yeah.
And they're not exactly Shakespeare, but like, it's fine as the basis for a decent little horror action movie, particularly 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you can for sure work in elements of Resident Evil 4 with the last Plagas and
Mhm.
stuff. And it's an escalation of the threat and the abilities of the characters. It can be done.
Yeah.
Probably the animated movies are a good example. And I'm not holding them up as great storytelling by any means, but like they're definitely set in that game world and they incorporate a lot of that stuff. It's just they've kind of gone off in their own direction a little bit and told new stories, but they're very faithful to the characters at least.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's all these different interpretations on it. I just feel like nobody's quite nailed it. And it's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
I always thought it'd be really cool, like, because the games already told the stories perfectly. That's why they kind of live on, and we love the series.
Mhm.
So, like, if you're gonna do an adaptation, why not do something original with original characters? Kind of like Outbreak meets Dawn of the Dead, and you have this group of survivors that have to work together to try to escape the city, in Raccoon City, and it's like Dawn of the Dead meets The Mist, and like you actually tell original stories where you don't. Because when you bring in characters that we know and love that already have these stories, you have that potential of upsetting people about them, or this is not portrayed properly, or this doesn't fit, this doesn't work. Like, it's still in Raccoon City. There's still creatures from Resident Evil, but it's an original story of people just trying to survive when the odds are against them. And you just write a story like that. I feel like that's the safest way to do it, and also has a lot of potential, because you're not upsetting anybody if you're just following the beats of the lore,
Mhm.
but you're not bringing in, characters we already know that are established.
I mean, I think it's a pretty versatile world that
Yeah.
you're talking about here. Ultimately, a city under siege by zombies and monsters and stuff, a ticking clock to try and escape before it all gets nuked or whatever.
Yeah.
Pretty solid basis for any sort of action thriller type thing like this.
Yeah.
It could be done.
So
And
there's potential there for, so many other stories other than just adaptations.
Yeah.
this is why I liked what they tried to do with Welcome to Raccoon City, where it's like, we're going to take the plots of the first and second games, kind of mash them together and have the events running concurrently, even though they're supposed to be like 3 months apart.
Yeah.
Because they know they can't really just use the plot from the first game. It's going to be too slow for a movie. So mix those two things together, bring in as many of the characters as you can, and then eventually have them intersect and resolve that. It's a nice idea. It was just horribly executed in the final product.
Convoluted, bloated. Do we want to touch on the CG films now? Because there's quite a bit of them. Or do we want to just stick to live action and go right into Welcome to Raccoon City?
We can. What did you watch the Netflix show?
I didn't.
Yeah.
You did?
Did you? I haven't even watched it. I know you watched one episode?
3.
3?
Barely.
It is tough going. It's the dance that got me.
Yeah,
Can you
I heard that was bad.
pull up the data? Because I think it was like in the top 3 or top 10 for like a week or two, and then it just drops.
So wait, do you want to go into that, or do you want to do the CG films?
I just want to. We can go in CG films. I just want to look
We
and
do.
see how. So let's see. Resident Evil season 1. 1 week.
Yeah.
Looks like shit,
72. Yeah. This is week 2. And then week 3.
I'm actually surprised it stuck around that long.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
It just and then it drops straight off.
Yeah.
From all of the curious people checking it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It got so much hate, people wanted to see what it was about.
Sure.
Could be.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
far as the animated movies go,
Yeah.
I think I've seen like 3 of them.
Okay.
Probably, so I'm not like totally well versed in them.
I think
Yeah.
we can, because we're gonna do live action, so we'll stick with the live actions for now. So that kind of moves us in now to all these years pass by, and they announce that they're making another Resident Evil film, and they're basically remaking it. So the Paul Anderson universe is gone, and now we're moving into who's the director of that movie?
Johannes
Roberts. And when I found out that they're retelling like 1 and 2, I was like, oh no, not this again. Again, we've already had it told in the games perfectly. I was excited, but not really on board with the idea. It wasn't until they started releasing promotional photos and you got to see the sets, and it's like, oh wow, maybe they actually are finally going to do a faithful adaptation. We got the RPD; it looked incredible. We got shots of the Spencer Mansion, and so it actually turned me around to be excited for the idea. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give it a chance. Here we go. And so we all got together. We went out to Vegas and actually had like a bunch of Resident Evil creators meet up, and we went and rented a theater. We had like the best experience ever, and we watched the film.
You were let down.
The margarita helped a little bit.
Yeah.
But, when you went and seen it, like what were your thoughts going into it before, and then when you did see it?
So I didn't have super high expectations for it because I did see some of the production stills and they looked cheap. It looked like some cosplayers just going at it, like with a really fakey looking background. But
Yeah.
maybe I didn't see the right ones. But I went in with just the kind of cautious terror, thinking like, okay, it's probably not going to be amazing, but it seems to be faithful to the games a little bit, and it's not like the Paul Anderson movies, so it's not going to be crazy over the top Alice doing stuff. And then, man, within like the first couple of minutes, where you find it like Chris and Jill are like orphans, at an umbrella-run orphanage, and Lisa Trevor shows up for some reason. Like, what? What's going on? And then it just goes downhill from there, man.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It's like they pitched it as being faithful to get people to go see it, but then as soon as you watch it, you're like, this isn't faithful. I was a little more restrained for the first, I'd say, half hour of it. I was like, okay, I like what they're setting up. It seems to be more faithful than the Paul Anderson movies, which isn't hard to do, right? The score was good. There's even elements where like Leon wakes up hungover. It's like, that's an element from the original game. That's why he showed up to Raccoon City late, is because he was drinking. So I was like, maybe they are going to be really faithful. Maybe this is going to be good. I am okay with a couple things like them being orphans. Lisa Trevor being there, it was a little odd, not gonna lie, but I could already see there was elements of them zooming in on the doll, and like it was a lot of fan service, but like too much to the point where like, why is this even relevant? Why do we keep hanging on these things that don't matter? And then after that first half hour, it just kind of went off the rails. And
I was really confused by their treatment of Wesker as well. Because he went from like this, sinister corporate espionage guy to just kind of a stooge who's being manipulated into doing this, and he's not really on board with it. And that was a really odd choice. I don't know why they did that.
Yeah.
That was an odd choice. I think Leon got done dirty the most in that film.
That dude seems like he's a good actor that plays Wesker. I just don't know why he was chosen for that role.
Yeah, because he was from the Umbrella Academy.
Yep.
He's pretty good in that.
In the title.
Umbrella.
Umbrella and Umbrella.
Neil McDonough too. Like, what a great actor. But why are you playing Birkin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was okay with him as Birkin. I think when Leon first appeared and he was hungover, I was like, okay, it's like Leon. But then when they all I'm not gonna lie, it was funny when they were all poking jokes at Leon, like get a haircut, you hippie and stuff like that. But I was like, dude, what are they doing to Leon? Like, this is so far from the character. This could have been any character that you could have put in here as like a joke, a comedic relief. But like Leon, it was just so far. Like, Leon is one of the most popular in the series. I mean, he's almost been in as many games as Chris, if not more adaptations. But for them to just kind of poke fun at him, it just seemed very out of character for that. You got the Stars team. I mean, I'm talking too much, but you guys go ahead.
No, I like the sequence where I laugh for all the wrong reasons, where like a truck explodes outside the RPD and Leon's just like listening to his stereo and not really paying attention, and just like a burning zombie walked into the room.
Comes walking
that's
around
right.
and dies, and then freaking is that Chief Irons just walks over and shoots it right in front of him. That's when he finally realized, oh, what's going on? But he's like a
do
goof.
what they did in the game, like just
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the rest of the movie is kind of like that. I will say the best elements of this movie were the locations. Seeing the RPD was really cool.
Mhm.
Spencer Mansion was really cool. You know, there's some shots of like the underground facility and the labs. It was still decent.
I would like to have seen more of the Spencer Mansion because I feel like they rushed through it. And there's a lot of scenes where it's like really dark, and the only time you see something is when they fire a gun, you get the muzzle flash, and it's just like shooting a couple of zombies, and then it's over again. I feel like they speed run their way through that section because it's kind of slow. Otherwise, so they can focus more on the outbreak in Raccoon City.
Yeah.
And there's one good sequence there where I think Chief Irons just decides to bail. He's like, I'm out here, gets in his car. And so the camera's just got on him, and it's like a tracking shot from in the car as he's trying to drive through the streets.
Yeah.
And you see people getting gunned down by Umbrella, and like things are exploding, zombies are starting to break through everywhere. And it's actually a pretty cool sequence. It really captures the chaos of all this going on. But it's like, where's that energy for the rest of the movie?
Yeah. And I felt like they were like in between films. They were trying to be a faithful adaptation, but they're also like comedic. There were some comedic moments that like him just blasting the song. I think it was Journey or something while that was happening. I was like, yeah, I like him as an actor. And I thought he was good. It's just, it felt like it wanted to be two different movies. Right. Like I think the setup of Raccoon City being a smaller town rather than a big city, I like that a lot.
That's how it always felt to me. It was a smaller. Yeah.
Because you see it in the original Resident Evil 2, and like it's very much low-rise buildings, like 3-4 stories, even in the center of town, and it's got that small town feel to it. And I think that just feels more believable.
Yeah.
The moment you bring in skyscrapers and everything, it's like, okay, suddenly it's like this big metropolis. Like I can't really buy that something like this could happen and nobody outside could find out about it.
Something scary
That's
about
what they did with their remakes too. I think they made
a bigger city. Yeah.
Why?
But then they, again, to the fan service, they had elements like where the Itchy Tasty was there, but it was a zombie that was like
in the movie.
Yeah, in the movie.
Dude, don't even give me started about
like
that scene.
They had fan service, but it was just not done tastefully or properly. And like you had the zombie run up, and like it shows the escalation between being a person to becoming a zombie, which I thought was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But this zombie breaks in, she's screaming, and she's writing Itchy Tasty on the window in blood, and it's like that kind of completely diminishes the whole Itchy Tasty journal. Like just because you have it doesn't mean that it fits in it.
That had to be one of the most disheartening moments I've ever seen. Like I was like,
that's why you made a fan film, The Keeper's Diary of Biohazard Story, because this movie burned you so much. So good things came from it.
I don't know. It was just crushing.
You just see him so bummed out about this
you
movie,
did.
like, oh man,
I
this
was in
really.
the movie theater and I was like,
I get it.
Why? Like why?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and there was a lot of that. I mean, they referenced the snake, you know, like in the original movie, the snake eats Richard. They made a joke about it, but he was just playing, or I think it was, I don't remember if it was Brad or Richard, whoever was in the helicopter, and he was playing Snake on his phone.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, what a
Oh
way
yeah,
to
that's
get
right,
on
he
it.
was.
Yeah, and they mentioned the shark too.
Yeah.
Because I did like the fact that I think they did go back to 98, didn't they? Like they had like the kind of authentic technology and stuff at the time, which was neat. It was
cool.
Cool little callback, I suppose.
But yeah, just to like reference it, but just not even show it or have it in. It's like, come on. I get it. Their budget was smaller. There was a scene where they were at the house and it was during the outbreak, and it was William Birkin's house with his family. And they heavily alluded to like hunters coming. I can't remember if it was a sounds or something. And I was like, oh man, this is the first time we're going to see live action hunters appear, because it's all
guess
flickers.
Like they were supposed to. There's a bunch of stuff that was supposed to be in the movie,
and it just was cut. Yeah. And yeah. And
that was supposed to be the hunter that was supposed to be in the film.
That was all right.
Yeah, that would have been sick, but that never.
I follow the CG artist on Instagram, the guy that they hired to do all this. He's really good at his work. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, so, and there's just a lot of elements where it's a lot that they put into one film. It seemed very rushed. It seemed very.
That's the tyrant.
It completely the concept art is awesome. Like this
Crimson
is all
Head.
really cool. They had the idea of having all this stuff in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's somewhere out there's a better version of this movie that had like 3 times the budget, and they could actually make this stuff feasible.
The liquor looked really good in it. I will say that. And then you get the showdown between Lisa Trevor and the Licker, just jumping off walls and shit and fighting it. It was wild, dude.
Yeah, for me, this movie was like I kind of had high hopes with it when I saw the production images they were posting on social media with the set building of the Spencer Mansion
Yeah.
and the front of the RPD. I was just like, yeah, it kind of looks whatever, but it maybe they're gonna do something with it. And I think when the trailer came out, I was like, okay, never mind.
Oh yeah. I the trailer didn't turn me away. It was when I actually seen it.
The trailer was like an immediate like, okay, I was totally wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when they all grouped together and got down to the subway station underground, or even a little bit before that, that's when I kind of checked out and I was like, this can be over at any time. William Birkin I think he looked all right. I know a lot of people didn't like the CG William Birkin. I thought that was
Oh,
fine.
the CG was terrible.
Maybe it was terrible. I don't remember.
And that's not
I
a
thought it was
knock on the
fine.
artist. I'm sure this movie was rushed to get done, and
Yeah.
the artist probably had to rush.
I do feel bad for Neil McDonough because like he is a good actor,
Yeah.
but he does have a tendency to appear in really shit films.
Oh, he
Yeah.
does. Yeah, you're right. I like him as an actor, though.
He needs
We were just
better
watching
agent.
him in Tulsa King, and he's freaking great.
He's good in that, yeah.
So what happens then at the end? Like they get together and then they end up shooting Wesker. Wesker like is having a
I don't
standoff
remember.
with William Birkin, and they shoot Wesker, and he shoots Birkin. Birkin takes the G virus and turns,
Yeah.
and then they escape. And then Leon gets a rocket launcher, right, and blows it up, and they escape.
I don't remember.
so. I'm trying to remember now.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute since
I
I've
just
seen this.
They're in a
remember.
standoff. Annette gets shot,
Annette gets shot.
and then Birkin gets shot, and then afterwards, they all get down to the train, and Birkin breaks through because he's been just mutating the whole time as usual, and then they all get off the train, they go up the tunnel, and then the whole city gets nuked,
And there's this like,
and then don't forget the ending cutscene.
yeah, there's like this thing with Birkin and Chris Redfield, as like they're orphans. So like William Birkin always kind of looked after Chris. So like it's like his father, his mentor,
Mhm.
but then he like turns on him at the end. I wasn't really like fully invested in that. I thought it was fine that they did it, but it just didn't really pull me in.
I think there's this weird lazy tendency with films like this where it's like everyone has to be connected somehow. Everyone has to be related and have this like weird backstory. It can't just be characters who just happen to intersect. Like they haven't met before, but like they're opposed to each other for whatever reason. And yeah, man, it's just like it's like a soap opera
Yeah,
at
Yeah.
that point.
unnecessary connections. I get what
Yeah.
they were doing, but they just didn't really flesh it out. They didn't really
Yeah.
add too much to it. Then they escape, and there's the bomb, which completely says that if they did continue this series, there'll be no Resident Evil 3. I think that's completely gone.
Yeah.
But then there's like this scene of like a cow flying or something. I don't
What?
know. At that point, I was checked out.
Like
Yeah,
Twister?
Yeah,
It
no,
was
the shockwave from the blast sent
Yeah,
the cow flying when it hit the field.
just type in cow.
I don't remember that.
It was
that like
really
a post-credit
ridiculous.
scene or something?
It was the ending when the bomb was going off.
Me and him were dying in the theater laughing about that.
It was
Good Lord.
it was ridiculous. Yeah, just type in like Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, cow.
I just remember like after I saw this in the movie theater.
There it is. Watch this. So
I
the
don't
bomb
remember- I
hits,
don't
and the
remember
cow's
this.
like, wee. Like, come on, that's some Twister shit, dude.
Oh gosh, I don't.
Like at that
remember
point, I
all.
was like, whatever, dude. I don't even care.
There's-
Yeah.
There is a post-credit scene as well where
There is.
Wesker comes back.
Yeah, explain that. Break
And-
that down.
So he was dead, and then Ada Wong shows up and injects him with like the T virus or something.
Oh yeah,
And
that
so
was
he's alive, and then he's like, my eyes, this is too bright. And she's like, here, try these. It's like, yep, there you go. That's the origin of the sunglasses.
There it is.
So that was the same
Actress.
actress that voices her in the RE4 remake.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Lily Gao.
Is that, yeah, that's Lily Gao. Yeah. So there was that
Very-
scene. And this is the first time where I was like, for people that like it, that's great. I'm happy for you. But I really hope this isn't successful because I already don't like what they set up with this and I don't want to see it continue.
Well,
Rather than
it-
just scrap the idea and do something different.
Technically did make a return.
Yeah, and I think they're okay. So now these are leaks and rumors, so I don't know how much we want to get into it, but they're talking about a new film that takes place for Resident Evil 0. I don't know if you guys heard anything on this.
That's just what you've
What
Or
I
made
I
videos
made a
about.
video on this, kind of breaking down with the information. It sounds terrible. So they're talking about doing a Resident Evil 0 movie and another Netflix series that's a reboot, not the one they did before. But the synopsis for it is very much similar to what they did before. and it really doesn't give me any high hopes for the future of the film franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I
There it
honestly
is.
can't believe Netflix would try it again
Yeah.
Yeah,
after the calamity
and
that was the series they did.
it's like the video game franchise is so big that it's the only thing kind of keeping the Steam roller going, you know. But it's like every property seems to fail. But is it failing if it's making a return? You know, like
No.
maybe for fans it's failing, but
Yeah.
If you're going from like doing $60 million movies that make $300 million to this 25 million, Welcome to Raccoon City that scrapes by like 50 or $60 million.
Yeah.
is that what it ended up making?
I'm not sure.
It was like
can't-
20, 40. Like the budget was 20, and
It's nowhere near
Go
on
back up.
par with what they did before.
yeah,
Okay, it only
There we
made
go.
yeah,
So that's
only, but still, it's not.
that
like, in
hasn't made a
comparison.
profit then, because like it'll need to make at least 60 million
Yeah,
to make a profit, because like they're only going to get like maybe 50% of the
Oh, okay.
actual ticket sales.
yeah.
Mhm.
Not to mention marketing, whatever
Yeah,
they
yeah,
actually
yeah.
did for it. So yeah, that definitely lost money for them.
Yeah.
So it's that's a downward trend with the movies, and then when you're obviously on a streaming service,
Yeah.
there's no revenue generated by that. It's just how many people watch it
Watch it. Yeah.
and what's the audience reception. Not good
Not
Yeah.
good.
for
No.
that one.
And I mean, I guess that would take us into Netflix, but before we get into that, wrapping up, Welcome to Raccoon City. What are your guys' overall thoughts on that?
I have none.
Yeah. Good.
Just a
Good discussion,
Yeah.
Andrew.
terrible product, embarrassing to be a Resident Evil fan to
Yeah.
watch it, and probably just depressingly boring for anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a really sloppy, amateurish, cheap movie.
Yeah, I'd say the same as I actually got my hopes up, and I regret that. That's why it's always good to be cautiously optimistic. But
Yeah.
after that, I just don't really have high hopes for them to do it again in the future. Like I've been burned me once.
Yeah.
Shame on me, burned me twice.
I'm
Whatever.
sure.
Shame on you, shame on me, whatever. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm sure Johannes Roberts is a great guy, but I don't know how much of a fan he is or is not. I feel like it may have been a movie where they needed to retain the rights and they found a filmmaker that's going to do, kind of what they wanted him to do. At the end of the day, this is the movie that kind of sparked my interest into doing what I did with The Keeper's Diary, so I can't complain about
Yeah.
it that much.
Yeah.
Good things
So,
came from it.
I don't know. I hope they do better in the future. I feel like if we got like 50 years worth of comic books and then 20 years worth of good comic book movies before they started getting really bad, I feel like now we can maybe start making some good video game adaptations.
Well, I do see there are, right? Like, so The Last of Us,
Last of Us, yeah.
Fallout series, which is probably my favorite of the video game adaptations. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a lot. So it can be done.
Yeah.
It like you said earlier, it needs to have the right people in front of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So my thoughts on so I think we all kind of recapped Welcome to Raccoon City, which leads us into, if we're just doing live action, and that kind of leads us into our finale here, the Resident Evil Netflix series. And I'm not gonna lie, after the third episode, I fell asleep on it like 2 or 3 times, and then I just had no interest in continuing it.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll start with you, Will. What are your thoughts on Resident Evil Netflix?
It's interesting because each new thing that comes out makes the previous thing look better. So Welcome to Raccoon City made me reevaluate the Mila Jovovich movies. Like,
well, that's true.
at the very least, they were entertaining. You
Yeah.
could have fun with them. And then there's that. And then this piece of filth came out. And it's like, oh man, it almost makes Welcome to Raccoon City look good, because
Crazy
at
how
least
works.
that had some recognizable Resident Evil things in it.
Yeah.
It's something. And this is just, I think to the best of my understanding, they had like a teen drama sort of story in mind.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And they couldn't get it made, and so they just wrapped it around a Resident Evil, a vaguely Resident Evil-ish story. So you've got this horribly disjointed narrative of like a teen drama between 2 sisters in high school in like the present day, and then the post-apocalyptic world where they're growing up in the future.
Yeah.
They are so jarringly out of sync with each other. The characters are so horrendously written. The performances are generally pretty weak. And yeah, it doesn't feel like it's got any connection to the Resident Evil series whatsoever. The fact that they've got Albert Wesker now playing a completely different character or a completely different role.
Yeah.
And then you find out that there's actually 3 of him.
Oh, I didn't get that
There's
far.
three
Oh,
of them?
God, all right.
So there was the original, and then
Clones,
he
yay.
cloned himself twice
Oh, God.
to carry on his research and stuff. And I love Lance Reddick as an actor.
He's a great actor.
He was a great guy, and he does his best with this.
Yeah.
But what they had him doing here, they had him dressed up as Blade. Basically, did you
Yeah.
see the
Sure,
pictures?
yeah, dude.
He is
Off-brand.
cool,
There's
right?
like one Blade. That's Wesley
Yeah.
Snipes, dude.
He is cool, but he's not Wesley Snipes kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
a different kind of cool he's got.
Yeah.
And so, the whole thing was just a disaster from start to finish. I wasn't sure if you were meant to even take it seriously or if it was just a goofy parody or something. It's
If he was
all
a
over the place.
clone, I mean, Wesker's a white dude. How does that work?
Well, the,
I mean,
What
the
did they
original.
say in the show?
Well, no, because all three of them are played by Lance Reddick.
So
Oh,
just
okay. So he was a
actor,
clone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
They actually explained that while this takes from the video games, it's not the video games we know. So in this one, Lance Reddick.
It's his own world.
Yeah,
It's like the
Lance Reddick
balance.
actually died in the volcano, like how RE5
Gotcha.
did.
Oh, okay.
So the one that we see mainly in this show
Yeah.
is the clone of that one.
Okay.
I like how Eric Pirius pops up when you Google
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from the bit I did watch, it was a completely new story that I just wasn't personally interested in. I do feel like Lance did play that short bit of him being Wesker. Like he definitely, when he was on camera, like stole the show. Like you were interested in his character. The CG was really well done. I thought
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
the
like
CGs.
the CG was good.
I've never seen the show. That's why I'm asking
Yeah.
you questions. I haven't watched any of it.
It was basically one of them is like an animal protection kind of person or like animal rights.
Yeah.
Breaks into the facility using her dad's credentials to let the monkeys or something out, and then the dogs or whatever, and then she gets bit. Now she has it. Hey, look, there's our watch party. And and so she gets bit, and I think that's how it gets out, but that's kind of like right where I stopped watching it.
Yeah. And so, it kind of leads to another outbreak that basically spreads globally.
Okay.
Civilization collapses, and that's why you get to see it skip forward to the future where they're growing up now, trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic world, and like umbrella elements of that still exist.
Did they ever make her feel guilty for causing the outbreak, or does she not have any responsibility for her
She
actions?
doesn't have to really take responsibility.
Okay,
no.
so
Man, I just remember seeing something on Facebook or something where this chick was dancing to like show
There's a-
tunes, and I
what's
was
that
like,
all
I'm out.
about?
Yeah.
I'm out.
So
that is possibly one of the worst things that's ever been committed.
Even
to
the
film.
actress that was watching her dance was like, "What are you doing?"
Can you explain that to us? Because I seen the clip, but I don't know any context behind it. Why are they dancing?
I don't think it's even. I'm trying to think. I don't think it's even particularly relevant to what's going on. She's just
Oh.
delivering like a villain monologue.
And she just starts
So she's
dancing.
dancing while delivering a monologue.
She's actually not in control of herself doing that. The other sister,
Brainwashing.
So, actually-
Controlling.
she found some way to use a device to control her behavior, like
So
her
it's
motor
like,
behavior and her voice and everything.
Jim
So-
Carrey with Evan Almighty.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
controlling him with the teleprompter.
Yeah. So,
Bro, that's dumb.
so in the earlier
It's all
timeline, she's like the main villain, but then the later timeline, Billy, that sister, becomes the main villain.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's kind of it's
She
a
was the
little
one that was bitten. Right?
convoluted. Yes.
Yeah.
So
So it's like the acolyte from Star Wars where you've got two
Yeah.
sisters, like one's good, one's bad.
except that show was awesome,
They're
right?
the
That was
same.
it's not as good as the acolyte.
I heard that was the best, dude. But it seems to be like Hollywood kind of falling into that same, just out of touch, kind of writing that just you got to question like, what were they
Who
thinking?
are they making these shows for?
Somebody, not
I-
me, but somebody.
Yeah, I don't know who they thought it was going to appeal to because
It
the
got
moment
canceled.
people got into this and realized what it was, like any Resident Evil fan's just going to say, "Nah, I'm out. This isn't.
Yeah.
This isn't Resident Evil." And anyone else is not going to be like amused enough by the narrative or the quality of it to
Yeah.
even stick around. So I don't know who it's for.
Man, that's such a shame. I feel like all these franchises now are just they're tainted and destroyed. I don't even know if you can salvage them.
fix it. So
I feel like if you wanted to,
yeah.
you couldn't use the name Resident Evil. Like
Yeah.
people are just gonna be like, "Fuck this! I'm not going to see it."
Well,
you would have to call
burn
it.
people over and over.
You would have to call it something. You have to call it Biohazard if you can do that.
That's copyrighted. So if we
I mean,
recap,
you know what I mean, though?
yeah, I totally get what you're
Yeah.
saying. Like it's at a point right now, and Constantine owns it. They're never going to let it go. I don't think.
No.
I really hope the rumors aren't true. But if you had to pick one live action Resident Evil property that's your favorite out of all of them, what would you pick?
Like out of all the things we've talked about today.
Yeah, live action. So it could be other things. Because my favorite's the George Romero trailer. I think that was the closest to Resident Evil we got, dude.
Oh, we can do that? Okay, for sure. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my loophole.
Mine is The Keeper's Diary.
Oh,
Ah.
that's a good. I agree. Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
All right.
So I guess what do you think about the future of the live action Resident Evil? Like, I would like to be optimistic, but like, what are your thoughts on where this could go and how we could fix this or just not even touch it again?
Potential is always there, right? The fan base is obviously still huge for Resident Evil. They're still hungry for good Resident Evil live action content.
Yeah.
They've just never had it.
Yeah.
So if you can, I don't know, if you get the right people involved, you really work hard to stay faithful to the games, you produce something that's the best you can. And like the trailers reflect that. They start to get a bit of hype built. You make it clear that we're going to stick closely to the games. We're going to be respectful to it. You'll start to get people bought into it. And then hopefully what you release will actually be worth their time.
Yeah.
It's going to rely on quality.
A well-written script. You don't need the biggest budget, right? A well-written script, a competent director and team.
Yeah.
And just follow what's already there.
Potentially, it is kind of expensive because if you're going to do action-heavy stuff like Resident Evil 2, particularly with like monsters like the Lickers and the Tyrant, you're going to need quite a bit of visual effects.
Yeah.
So it can be an expensive thing, but if nothing else, the Mila Jovovich movies showed you don't have to spend megabucks on these films, and you can throw in a lot of action, and not all of it is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, the writing's generally horrific, but like some of the action sequences show a bit of flair, and it can be done. So yeah, you don't need Dial of Destiny kind of budgets where it's like 300-400 million.
Yeah,
that you're spending.
Movies have gotten like that. It's like these numbers are totally reversed now. It's like movies now are 300 million and they get 33 million returns.
Partly it's over reliance on VFX.
Yeah.
Partly actors are getting more and more expensive. They have to spend more on marketing. And there's a lot of just wastage. There's a lot of unnecessary people on set that they spend money on that they don't need. And what was the other thing? Yeah. There's a funny way that they finance movies in Hollywood where the producers. So yeah, imagine if you bump that up to 200 million instead. Now suddenly you're getting 10 million all for yourself. You can buy a lot of mansion for that.
No, that's smart. That's thinking.
Exactly.
We got to do.
So there's less incentive for them to keep the costs low because they actually get more money out of it.
Yeah.
For making the movie more expensive. They don't need to, but they can. And they know generally there's not much at the back end for producers and people in terms of profits. Most of the time it just goes back to the studio and you don't get anything profit-wise from the film. So again, there's not much incentive to have a lean, mean movie that's going to be super profitable. You want to get it as bloated as you can to make more money for yourself.
The system is broken, basically is what you're saying. And I don't think streaming services and any of that help at all, right? Because you don't get those residuals from people going to the theater and then buying it when it comes out. So you got a system right now that's kind of collapsing.
Yes.
And it's almost like a bubble that's popping. Like,
once you get into the realms of needing to make at least like $1 billion just to break even, you got problems.
You've gone too far.
Yeah. But particularly now because like the economy's not doing so great, people don't have as much disposable income. And so they're going to be less inclined to go to the cinema with their family, particularly when ticket prices have gone up and up and up as well, and spend like $100, $150 for like popcorn and snacks and tickets and go see a piece of crap movie that they don't want. So all of those things combined, it's a system that's kind of collapsing under its own weight. And there's going to have to be a major rethink of how they do movie making to make it more efficient.
I think this is where it's indie time to shine. And this is where the smaller budget films 100%. And the creativity can really, like, that's where now the spotlight would be moving away from big Hollywood films where they spent so much that it can't fail to people that are just genuinely trying to be creative with a good story and a good script and a good team.
I mean, imagine the way they could do this instead, right? Instead of making a $300 million movie, why not make 30 movies for $10 million? You got 30 chances to succeed then.
That's probably how they used to do it.
I think it's a lot to do with the way that things are promoted and people not going to the theater. I think there was a video that I think Matt Damon was talking about how Matt Damon. He was talking about one of the movies he did that was like regarded as one of his best. He said like a movie like that
Was it Good Will Hunting?
It might have been Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
He said
Yeah.
that was great for the time, but a movie like that wouldn't be made today. And then he gave a lot of
think I know what you're
context
talking- yeah, I've seen what you're talking
as
about.
to why.
I think partly for him it was the demise of the home movie market.
Yeah,
like
it was, yeah.
That's what he
rentals
was
and
talking
stuff.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was a huge. That would add another 50% to your income
Exactly.
on your theatrical gross, which was great. That would make movies that were just on the brink of turning a profit
Yeah.
suddenly like super profitable, or movies that might have flopped outright.
Yeah.
You know, just squeak by and make a bit of money for the studio.
That might be
That won Academy Awards too, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that might be why the studios and the executives, the suits that make the decisions, don't want to make that investment into all these smaller budget movies because they want to guarantee a return. They're just now not seeing that return.
It's there's always the model that uses tentpole movies to support smaller ones. But so you might release one big movie in the summer and rake in like a few $100 million for your studio to then finance a bunch of smaller movies. That's a tentpole movie.
Yeah.
Which is great, but they're not really doing those smaller movies now. They're just pumping that into the next big movie in the hopes of making more. And it was working, particularly with superhero movies in the late 2010s, like leading up to maybe Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
You were routinely seeing movies that were breaking the billion mark. It was becoming easy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really happening now.
I would blame a lot of that on fatigue, but I would primarily blame that on the writing of these shows has drastically declined.
Yeah.
It's almost like a lot of these, like CG from 10 years ago looks better than CG in some of these movies now. And I'm not saying CG's make or break, but when a movie is, big budget and it's your summer flick you're going to see and it just looks like garbage,
Mhm.
that's part of what takes you out. Then the screenwriting, the actual script,
Yeah.
that's garbage too. Like there's a lot of the Marvel movies where they just lost steam. Like they just sloppy writing and it just doesn't have the stakes that they once had.
No.
Yeah.
I was just telling my brother yesterday, I feel like the moment cinema kind of died was when that happened.
The snap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the snap that killed Hollywood, dude.
Yeah.
It was, Endgame that was probably Infinity War, actually, how it ended. But yeah, that was kind of the culmination of all of that really good storytelling. And then Endgame was a pretty sloppy movie, ultimately. It made crazy amounts of money because everyone wanted to see it.
Yeah.
That was essentially the end of like the good times for them, and they began a decline because they were running out of an overarching story to tell, and they never managed to pick it up after that. And I think, someone like Scorsese, who talked about the superhero movies just being like theme park attractions and like they're killing actual cinematic art.
Yeah.
He's right.
I was going to say, I think there's a lot of weight behind
And everybody
that.
gives him so much shit for that, but it's like, dude.
I think people are coming around to realize that he actually, at that time when they were at their all-time high, people gave him a lot of shit. But now that you can kind of see how this is playing out, people respect him a lot more for that opinion. And you hear a lot of other people saying that same thing.
Yeah, and it just becomes slop now, an expensive slop at that. I mean, Red One, that new movie by The Rock, cost $300 million.
That's the Christmas one.
Yeah, it made $32 million, I think, in its opening weekend. That's going to be a mega bomb.
I don't think studios can rely on actors anymore to bring in money.
All these guys are old now. We need like younger actors.
Or just better writing.
Better writing, younger actors, people that aren't corrupt.
I know we went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but that kind of does explain the whole movie system right now. Like, as a whole.
Aside from this, another big problem I think is with streaming services. Everything, it's more quantity over quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
iPad brains.
It's like
bro.
we're making stuff. Exactly, we're making stuff for. It's not like we're making things that are like we used to enjoy quality, like The Shining, great horror film. Now it's like where are all the horror films?
They're there.
Yeah, there's a school of thought that a lot of the stuff on streaming is specifically designed for you to have on in the background while you're looking at your phone.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what viewing it has become now.
The movies exist and they're still making them. You just have to dig for them.
It's not that often.
I see them all the time. I see a good. Well, that was a really good one. Oh, that was a good one. I never heard anything about that one. They're putting those big budget movies in the forefront because they know that you're gonna click. It's just like Steam. Everybody says, "Where are all the good games?" Bro, they're there.
Yeah.
It's mainly from indie developers. You just gotta dig because they're not promoting this stuff. And I think that's where it's going.
Isn't it interesting as well? Like they've started putting commercial breaks in their movies.
Oh,
like Amazon are doing that.
I hate that, dude. First time I seen that, I was like,
the whole point of
Don't even
streaming
start.
is like we're not like network TV or anything.
Yeah.
You know, you just pay your monthly fee and that's it. You got access to everything, watch all your movies, whatever.
Yep.
Then it's like, it's not really actually profitable. It turns out the original model was actually a lot smarter. So now you're starting to see
Yeah.
commercials pop up. It's like,
they
if
are.
you want to make them go away, well, you have to pay another $20 a month or whatever.
There's nothing worse than finding a good film and actually getting invested and caring, just to have it break to a commercial about
It's like at the most
progressive
interesting time
insurance or
too,
something. Yeah. And it's just like this completely
Yeah.
killed the vibe. Dune. I was watching the new Dune, which
Yeah.
I think is a fantastic
That's a
movie.
good movie. Yeah.
Another high budget movie that didn't do so well profitably.
Did it not do?
It did a lot better than the first one.
Thank God.
I don't think it
Because
was
I loved that movie.
crazy successful, but it was definitely enough to justify a third one.
So like Dune and then ad break, and it's like, not now, not this movie. What the hell? Yeah, Dune, and there's movies that do squeak by, like Dune or Blade Runner 2049, that are fantastic, and they just don't hit that.
What's
It's
funny?
unfortunate.
We've talked about this on Open Bar, like the live stream that I do.
Yeah.
The cultural footprint of movies, right?
Yeah.
Where it's possible to have a movie that makes crazy amounts of money, but it doesn't really have any impact on culture.
Yeah,
And you don't talk about it.
yeah,
For like example, the Avatar movies.
Mhm.
You know, the biggest movies of all time. Essentially, the first one did like over $2 billion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nobody ever talks about Avatar in
No.
the same way that we might talk about the Terminator or
yeah.
Aliens or
yeah. It doesn't have that lasting appeal. I mean, it does, but it's not written in a way that it's just more entertainment for you visually, right? Like it's its own world. It's a cool thing to go see, but it doesn't have anything that really lasts. It's nothing revolutionary. It's not just kind of, I mean, the story, if you really boil it down to its basics, it's a very basic story.
Yeah.
With a fun visual feast, I guess.
it's Fern Gully in space.
What is it?
Fern Gully.
Fair and
That
Gully?
old animated thing where like the guy,
Oh, it's just,
yeah, and it's like he comes like with woodland creatures or something.
oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And he befriends them all, and then like the logging company comes in to like destroy their environment. He has to fight back and
yeah.
stop them. It's just that.
It's that. It's a very basic story. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where Hollywood's at right now. I mean, that it seems very like negative, right? This seems very like a downer, but at the same time, like there's still people like now you have the ability to do the Keeper's Diary, which is like a dream project for you. You're making your own film, so like it's these indie films that are starting to come out, and people are starting to see that the passion and the talent lies within these smaller budget films where people actually care about what they're writing and what they're doing. And I think going forward, like you're going to see that a lot more as these big Hollywood movies continue to decline and lose money.
I hope so. Yeah.
Well, the fact that it's crowdfunded means it's the democratization of filmmaking.
Yeah.
People can vote with their wallets for the thing that they want to get made before it gets made. And if not enough people vote, then it doesn't get made.
Isn't that a nice option to have?
Yeah,
like,
and
it's
so
cool that we can do that.
Yeah, and so it relies on the wisdom of the audience. Like it's directly the audience ordering the thing that they want.
Yep.
And which is actually quite a nice way of doing entertainment, I suppose.
And then you don't have that overhead because you only raise what you need to make the film, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't have these executives telling you what you can and can't do with your film.
Yeah.
So how do we close this out? I don't know how to close it out.
I wanted to ask you before we close it out, can you tell us a little bit about your book series and your film that you have coming out?
I can.
Yeah.
So the book series is a series of action thrillers, similar to something like The Bourne Identity, where it's like the CIA going on special operations against like say terrorists, trying to unmask like weapons smuggling or conspiracies. The main character is named Drake. He is one of the team called the Shepherds, which goes in to retrieve assets that might get captured or go missing or whatever. And on the first mission that he goes on in the first book in the series, he's sent in to rescue a woman who's been held in a Russian prison. Doesn't really know too much about her. But when he tries to bring her back, it all goes wrong and he's forced to go on the run with her and gradually learns more about why she was put in there and what she knows that's so dangerous. And it kicks off like a big kind of overarching story that spans 9 books. So he and his team have to try and combat this like rot within the CIA and various governments and conspiracies and secrets, all that sort of thing.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's 9 books.
9 books.
So you have a story that you've already written, which is way better than somebody making a movie and then be like, oh, that was successful. Now what do we do? You know, you already have that.
At least
You
we
can
know
find
where it's
these on
going.
Amazon, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we did a crowdfunded campaign to make a short film.
Yeah.
Not based on one of the books strictly, but like kind of a story set between books 2 and 3 that just fills in like an extra adventure, gives you a bit more background to some of the characters.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough; it did really well, and we shot it in Canada last year, and now it's going to get released on November 25th on my channel. And we had our premiere at Grand Rapids Comic Con just a few days ago.
yeah,
Yeah, we had a great reception to it, so hopefully people will enjoy it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
forget to
awesome.
check it out on his channel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not familiar with it, but I thought it was fascinating when I first started learning about it because it kind of reminded me of like the Tom Clancy stuff, and
Yeah, that's what I was
I
thinking.
think you said Jason Bourne kind of inspired by. So
Yeah.
definitely very interesting.
And it seems like you know what you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's not go nuts here. We'll find out.
Very competent in your reviews, well written, and yeah, I feel like you can articulate your thoughts really well to the point where like you know what you can write a good story.
Yeah, and like this is a first step in a process, and what we're hoping is it's going to lead to bigger and better things further down the line. But it's us dipping our toe into making a movie for the first time, and hopefully it goes well.
I think it'll do just fine. Yep.
Yeah.
So check that out. And I do like how our conversation kind of really nicely segued into that.
Yeah.
Talking about, these smaller films that are starting to pop up. All right, everyone, that's going to be it for this video.
If you like this video and you want to see more like it, we can't do it without your support. So please subscribe to our channel, like this video, comment below, share it with others, hit that notification bell, and join us on Patreon. Without you, none of this would be possible. That being said, please let us know your thoughts on today's video in the comments below.
Thank you all for watching, and we hope to see you back at the Residence of Evil.
That's all we've got for today. Go away now.